There he is.
How are you?
The man, the myth, the legend.
Oh, stop it. So,
Taylor Rushing. Look at you.
how are you?
Look at that beautiful compound behind you. Where are you right now, Taylor?
I'm at home. This is where I have my little collection of funky art.
I love it.
Um, it makes for a good Zoom background.
Yeah, absolutely. So Taylor, Taylor Rushing, by the way, ladies and gentlemen, I mean, such admiration your way, Taylor. But I was listening this morning actually to Jimi Hendrix's experience earlier. Lost him way too young. And I said, you know what? I'm going to ask Taylor about that. That album experience changed my life. When I heard like Hey Joe, that whole experience album, I thought my reality changed. It was really important to me. And I said, Taylor, what album had that impact on you? Like, did you have a similar experience with an artist or an album that just like things were just different after hearing them?
Well, I kind of measured my life after sort of those experiences. Like there's always sort of life before this and life after this. And I grew up, my mom, I didn't really grow up with God in the household. I more grew up with Paul McCartney and Mick Jagger as our icons in the household. So I was very lucky that my mom loved them so much. So I know that like in high school, the Stones' "Let It Bleed" was a major for me. The album cover is incredible. It's a giant like birthday cake made of like records and garbage, and it has little Rolling Stones at the top of the cake. That one was definitely huge and game changing because it was the ultimate sort of confluence of rock and roll and country, which I loved already. And then definitely sort of when I went into like undergrad, J.J. Cale's "Naturally" was a total game changer for me. The album cover has like this amazing anthropomorphized raccoon painting on it, and he has like a hound dog at his feet. And the sort of visual experience was insane. I couldn't believe how beautiful the cover was. And then the album has this just incredible sort of ultra chill, groovy, funky, swampy rock and roll. And that totally changed my life. That was like one of the best things I ever saw. And
Oh,
I think for me, I experienced things visual. Everything is visual first. So I was always drawn to album covers at the record store that I would pick up because of how they looked, you know?
right, right. And isn't it a shame, Taylor? And I'm glad you brought that up. As much the Spotify and the music in our pocket, as great as it is, sometimes you lose a little bit of that, right? Like the beautiful big artwork and the liner notes and all that.
It's atrocious. I mean, we live in an era now that just completely lacks the sort of level of consideration, especially when it comes to things like packaging. I think that the the experience of the record itself is just as visual as it is sonic, and I think that when you look at a record, you have this incredible chance to sort of bring people in, it is in every way an advertisement, the album cover. And I think that when you actually get to experience it and smell it and feel it and look at it, all my favorite album covers as a kid were the ones that were illustrated. And you just don't see them anymore. It's very much nowadays we live in the era of the full bleed photograph all the way to the
Yeah.
edge of the record with the name, which is beautiful in itself because I love seeing great photography, but there's just not enough hand-drawn stuff anymore.
Yeah, I mean, there's only one Taylor, and that's the thing. That's the way I feel about your art, Taylor. Like you hit some fucking nerve. Like you hit a dynamic that is way out of control. It's like a great success story, Taylor. Basically, you know. And I wanted to ask you this because you played music. You played music for a while. Uh, did you always want to be an illustrator, or were you like Rob Zombie? I know I asked because Rob Zombie, he can paint and draw, and he used to say to him music was the goof. He wanted to be an illustrator. Yeah.
It's really funny. I feel very lucky that I was sort of allowed to be as creative as I wanted to be as a kid, so I never felt particularly chained to one thing. I think that I grew up working in a glass blowing shop as a kid, and I worked for a cabinet at a cabinet shop for many years when I lived in Austin. I played in a band when I lived in Austin, and
Right.
that I think that like I've just been so lucky to sort of scratch all the itches at all the times. And I think that I'm just very fortunate that I have a job that I really chose because the overhead was incredibly low and I knew I could do it from anywhere and I knew I could travel with it and I knew it was the best way that I could work directly with musicians. And so it in some ways it was sort of a logical choice. But I just knew that whatever I chose, if I just spent endless time at it and got good at it, that's what it would take. And it's been an uphill battle. I mean, I draw at least 6 hours every day, and I have for the past 4 years. And that's just how you get good. You put your 10,000
Yeah.
hours.
Yeah. So let me ask a little bit about that. I was going to ask you because, the songwriting process in Nashville or something, Taylor, they lock themselves at 11 a.m., come out at 4 p.m. What's your process like this 6 hours? Obviously there's days that are different than others, but it's like, the routinary Taylor rushing day. Like, what does that look
Well, it's funny in the past year or so because the level of responsibility that comes with working away from drawing is much higher. I spend a lot more time writing emails than I wish I would, or I spend a lot more time or hopping on phone calls, and I'm grateful that that's part of being an independent business owner. But I spend a lot less time than I wish I could drawing. But more often than not, I wake up in the morning. I wake up early and I have a cup of coffee, and my ideal drawing window is between about 7 a.m. and noon. That's sort of when everything is cooking, everything's good. I haven't gotten any really critical emails yet at that point, especially because I'm on the East Coast. It's nice because then I don't get any emails from California until the afternoon.
like?
So that's a pretty good that's the goal. That's the golden window. And then usually I spend some time with my partner and our dog, and we have dinner at the end of the day. And then I usually go back and do a little bit of drawing, whether it's just some like fine tuning while I'm watching television or something, or I'm full blast into a new project. But yeah, it's usually early morning, late evening. That's sort of the special time to get to work.
Yeah, love that. Love that, Taylor. Taylor, what when you got into University of Wisconsin at Madison,
Yeah.
what was your catalog of work? Like, what was like your presentation there?
Oh, it was an absolute mess, actually. It's really funny you ask. So I went to undergrad at Evergreen State College in Washington, and then that was a school that had zero. It was a total hippie school. There were no grades. There was no anything. So at the end of our sort of college career, we got a narrative evaluation. It was just like a really thick packet of paper, and each instructor had written stuff about us. So I didn't even have a grade point average at that point. And when I applied to go to grad school, they were just completely baffled. I just sent in this huge packet of stuff with no grade point average and a bunch of like pictures of like strange sculptures I had done, or sort of like things I'd made in a wood shop, or like weird band posters that I'd done. I'd been in a band called the Possum Stompers at one point, and I did like this outrageous possum drawing. And I'm sure when they got my application, they were just like, this guy's a total nut job. And it worked to my advantage, I think, because I was just weird enough. But yeah, that was great, and luckily it kind of gave me time to formalize what I wanted to do and who I wanted to be when I grew up.
Man, that's incredible, Taylor. And I was, you look at Instagram now. I look at the art on Instagram and I go, they reduce these incredible masterpieces to these tiny things now. And you can't really tell if it's good or if it's bad, but there's so many kids that are like 10, 11 years old that are so gifted and like they're doing incredible anime, stuff like that, Taylor. Do you think Instagram would have like intimidated you growing up or something? Because I feel like if I was like starting now as an artist and I saw like I was exposed to this stuff. It's almost like people our age, like the fact that we didn't have it was good. You know what I mean?
I think that there's really something to be said about sort of the young people now having the feeling like they need to measure up to someone else. And I think that that's really where Instagram can be scary, is because you feel this need to be as good or replicate someone else's work in order to be like them or be as successful as them. But I think on the other end of the spectrum, I think Instagram does a great job. If you're willing to hunt for it, you can find people that are really working on the fringe and people that are doing really unique things that go completely outside of trends. And I was lucky to sort of come onto Instagram at a time where there was still a lot of weird people doing weird things, and the algorithm didn't necessarily send you in a particular direction. So I'm thankful for the community that I've built via Instagram. I don't know what I would do without it, unfortunately, because my business is based on visuals.
Right.
But I definitely think that there is a great community of creators out there that, that just sort of like live on the edges, that you just have to look for them. But yeah, I'm thankful that I didn't grow up with social media, because I think that it would have made me already more anxious than I already am.
Amazing, amazing, Taylor. And one of the beautiful things about you is people who've known you, who work with you for years, they love you and they love you at a profound level. And I think part of that is, I mean, you're obviously incredibly charming and a cool dude, but it's like you really connect with your clients and the artistic community on such a profound way. And I think by the time this comes, our Fiesta flyer is going to come out, and like you really captured what we're about, what I'm about, and you do this with all your clients, whether it's with Willie, with the Stones. We'll talk about that in a second, but it's incredible. Like, how have you always connected this well, like empathetically to your friends and to your family? Like, how do you do it? How do you get that core of the people that you're connected with?
Well, it's funny. So I grew up as essentially as an only child, and I spent a lot of time interacting with my parents' friends and my grandparents' friends. And so I had to learn sort of many ways in which to communicate with people. And I think that I was very lucky because not only did those older folks teach me how to relate to them, but they also taught me about sort of the magical things that happened when they were kids. And I look back on like being a kid and going to a hardware store, and the hardware store always had a person that was really like friendly and personable. And the hardware store that I had when I was a kid served popcorn. And I think about like the popcorn as being something that is just, it takes so little effort, but it adds so much more to an experience when you're dealing on a sort of transactional basis. And I just think that it's so important, especially in this day and age, to make a personal connection with the people that you do business with. And so I make a huge effort to sort of bring my client base into my world, because everything I do I try to make everything I do beautiful. I want every act to have a level of beauty and connection. And whether that's a phone call or going for a beer with your client, I think that like I want it to really feel like they're getting all that I can give them, instead of just, shooting me a Venmo deposit and calling it a day. I want it to feel like a personal thing because it's my job to make artists and musicians feel even more powerful than they already are. And
Yeah,
so if I can sort of give them a little extra gift by making them feel, really honestly, like I care about what they're doing, I think that it makes the relationship that much better because I'm in this for the long term. I mean, I know that I'm going to probably die with a pencil in my hand, and I want to make sure that I'm taking all my people with me.
I love it. I love it, Taylor. We're humbled and honored to be part of your circle there of trust, and you're being so good with your time, Taylor. So, let me ask you about a couple of your famous clients. Gotta do it.
Sure.
Let me ask you about Willie. You at this point, I think you're very intertwined with Willie Nelson. How did you meet Willie or his team? Like, how did that relationship start?
I was very fortunate to be connected with the people at Luck Reunion originally. Everyone there sort of orbits around the Willie universe, and it very much is sort of a small orbital ball that sort of surrounds the Willie world, and much of it includes family. And I think that a huge part of what Willie is about is taking his people with him. I mean, he has staff that have worked with him for 40 years that still work with him. So I think that, going back to the sort of personal connection thing, I was able to sort of make a connection with the folks at Luck, and they were so unbelievably willing to bring me in. I've been a Willie fan since I was a kid.
Yeah.
I saw him at the state fair when I was little. And so, the first project I did with them, I did a shirt design for them, and then I got to do the poster for Willie sort of returning after the pandemic, his first show, and it was an absolute dream come true. And I think that the fact that I've shown so much love and admiration for what Willie is and what Willie stands for, I think that they've seen that in my work, and they want me to impart that. So. Yeah, I've been very grateful. I've never gotten to meet Willie personally as much as I would love to, but I've been very lucky to sort of work closely with his community and the people that love him as much as I do.
Absolutely. Well, we started talking about Let It Bleed and the album that had such an impact on you. So let's finish with that, Taylor. I mean, you are all over the Rolling Stones shop. You're creating some beautiful, all kinds of stuff for the Rolling Stones. I mean, first of all, congratulations. That is beyond epic. And how did it feel like, now that like you're working with the Rolling Stones, like, like, are you like levitating?
I mean, it's incredible. I'm super, super grateful, first of all, for the people at Oxford Pennant for bringing me into this project, because I wouldn't be doing this without them. It is their vision and their dream, and they were very lucky to sort of trust me in taking taking sort of what they had and making it into something. Working with the tongue is obviously sort of, to me, it's the most visual. It's
Yeah,
representative of rock and roll you can get.
absolutely.
It is the icon of rock and roll, and people know it. People know it who know nothing about the Rolling Stones. So there's a lot of pressure that goes into sort of interacting with that, because I know how important it is. But I think the way I approached working with the sort of the tongue was, I was thinking about all the ways in which people have bootlegged the tongue and sort of have made, sort of taken the tongue beyond the original Stones graphic. And once you sort of look at it with those eyes, then it's so fun. I was able to draw, I think I drew 12 different versions of the tongue, and like each one kind of got funkier and weirder as it went. And to me, the thing that's so great about the Stones is they recognize that like it's such an iconic graphic that all it needs to be is a mouth with a tongue, and people instantly attribute it to the
Right.
So they don't treat it like a such a special, sort of reverent object. They really let it. They recognize its value in popular culture, and they know that no matter what it is, it signifies the Rolling Stones. So I'm grateful for that ultimately. And yeah, of course, it's an absolute dream come true. I mean, I thought that working with Willie Nelson was going to be the absolute peak of what I was able to achieve.
Right.
I am, yeah, I'm over the moon. I mean, I when I got the email to do that project, I cried. I
Sure.
needed because yeah, it's a high honor for sure, and I'm just grateful for the trust that was given to me to do that, because yeah, every illustrator who works in rock and roll wants to work with that graphic, and I'm just a lucky boy.
You know, just thank you for your art, Taylor. Like when you go to Barcelona and you see, like all this incredible architects, Sagrada Familia, all these people that died, doing what they loved. I think that Taylor Rushing, I think that you, my friend, you're like a Gaudi or something for the rock world. And, just truly humbled and honored, like to live in the time that you lived. You're awesome. So
Oh,
thank you.
dude, that is incredibly generous of you. I certainly don't think that, but I definitely feel very, very fortunate because yeah, I'm the luckiest person on earth. I sit around and draw pictures all day, and what more could a person ask for?
Absolutely. For Taylor Rushing, you said it all for today, my friend. Thank you so much for your incredible time, your generosity, and just for your incredible vibe. Thanks so much.
Well, thank you. Appreciate you so much. Okay, talk to you
Bye.
later.